So let's take an example. My need is transportation. Okay? I need to get from my apartment at Discovery Bay to my office in Shamshui Park. Okay? To meet my basic needs, I, like many of us in this room, use the MTR, right? It's efficient, it's clean, it's inexpensive, it's safe, and depending on the time of day, it can be somewhat comfortable. Now, normally when I'm commuting, it's not comfortable at all because I'm standing on it like this, because I'm on it with thousands of other people that are also making the daily commute to their offices or wherever they're going, okay? But it meets my basic needs for transportation. Would you agree? Okay, but my wants, you know, I don't want to stand there with thousands of other people and fight the crowds and get caught up in the escalator and, you know, and worry about do I have money on my Octopus card, right? I want to just get my car and drive. Because I actually like driving, right? It's enjoyable to a degree. Maybe not so much in Hong Kong because the traffic here is kind of crazy, at least compared to where I come from. I should tell you a little bit, you know, Savannah, where I come from, population 250,000 people. So to go from, and about the same size as Hong Kong proper, so to go from that to about the same size of landmass, and what, 7.5 million people? It's a pretty drastic change, right? My commute in Savannah was 20 minutes, and 10 minutes of that was I would stop and get coffee every day, right? It was easy, it was convenient, it was fast, right? It was delightful, actually. I don't think it would be necessarily the same in my smart car, but if I owned a smart car, it would certainly serve that want, right? So again, my need is to get from my home to my office, and I can do that with the MTR. My want is to get there a little more comfortable, a little bit more convenient on my time schedule without the crowd, okay? My desire, however, right? My desire is a whole nother entity of understanding. My desire, oh wait, that's not really it. This is my desire, right? Only a Rolls-Royce Phantom is going to meet this desire. I want to get there in style. I want people to pay attention. I want people to notice me. I want to ride in luxury. I want to sit in a supple calfskin seat. I want somebody else to drive, right? Only a Rolls-Royce Phantom could service that need. Now, you know, this is a, what, $500,000 U.S. automobile? Not many of us can afford that, certainly not on a professor's salary. But it's important that we understand this. It's important that we understand this in terms of our customers. It's important that we understand this in terms of Poe, okay? Poe has basic needs, he has basic wants, and he has basic desires. And if we can understand how to meet those, we can understand how to get him to part with his money, okay? Now, needs are basic, right? Transportation, clothing, food, housing, etc., right? Everybody has basic needs. Well, do they? Are everybody's basic needs being met? Maybe that's the right question. Let's look at developing countries, third world countries, right? You know, water might not be clean. I might not have access to education. I might be living in a hut, right? It might be a lot more difficult for me to meet my basic set of needs. It was an interesting story I heard about a non-governmental organization that went into South Africa, into a developing part of the country to help out the locals, and they arrived there, and there's a high instance of dysentery and cholera, diarrhea, and you know, these people aren't having really a fun time living there, and it turns out that the water source that they're drinking from is pretty polluted. So the NGO, being an NGO, raised some money, comes back, builds a new water filtration system, spends a lot of money in this elaborate thing, drawing in the dirty water from the river, filtering the water, making it clean. And it turns out that the locals were, essentially defecating next to the river. They were washing in the river. They were polluting themselves. And they come back a year later only to discover that the new water filtration system wasn't even really being used. And they couldn't understand why. Why would you want to put up with that if you had a way to prevent it? And so they began to do a little more research, and they really began to ask questions of what their customers' needs were. And it turns out that they lived with cholera and dysentery and diarrhea for so long that it was part of their lifestyle. It didn't bother them anymore. What they wanted was access to education so that they could educate their children so that they could move out of the horrible place and have a better life, right? The NGO learned an important lesson because they didn't understand what their basic customer needs were. And if they had, they wouldn't have spent money on building a filtration system for water, but they built a school, right? That's a clear representation, I think, of what we as designers and future business owners really need to understand. What are my customers' true needs? I must figure that out.